Anki is an absolute lifesaver at uni, but it can be a bit overwhelming when you first download it. So today I want to go through everything you need to know to get started with it so that you can get going and start using it as early as possible, and further down the road maybe you can start trying to flesh it out and do more complicated stuff with it. So when you open up Anki, there's 5 tabs at the top. Let's first of all break those down, what we're looking at here. You've got decks, which is the first one, which is what you should automatically be added onto. This is where you'll be able to click on to access all of your different decks, and we'll look at those in a second. Then you've got add. This is the only other really thing you need to be pressing on at the top. The other 3 are slightly irrelevant. Yeah, add button is how you're gonna start actually entering in and making flashcards that you can sort into different decks. Browse will only become useful down the road when you actually have decks that have cards in them. For now, because you don't have any new cards, then there's no cards to be seen. That'll be useful later on when you're trying to find keywords or you're trying to search for a term and see if you've already got flashcards on it, and you can quickly filter through all your flashcards using the browse button. So that's very handy, but for now, don't need to worry about it. Stats is kind of your vanity hotspot. If you're trying to gas yourself up and see how many flashcards you've done over the last week, or equally if you've done absolutely nothing and need to really give yourself a kick up the arse, that's where you'll be pressing and you'll be able to see just how much work you've done, and it'll give you pretty key breakdowns. I won't be clicking on that currently because it's been a hot minute since I've done any work on this after a long summer. Finally, you've got the sync button. This is only really important if you've edited some of your decks on Anki mobile. In that case, because despite being on the same account, if you've only done it on your laptop or you've only done it on your phone, then you need to try and press the sync button, or when you actually close the app itself, it will automatically sync. But if you're the sort of person who's chronically opened all apps, then you might as well press sync occasionally to make sure it does actually go over to the other deck, and that'd be quite handy. Then if you come down to the bottom, we'll see that we've got these 3. Create deck will be important. So this little button down here, get shared, this is where you can go and find decks that other people have made. So maybe you're trying to do a list that you assume has already been made. Maybe you're trying to learn the most 1,000 common words of a language. Chances are people have already done that before. So if you press on this, you'll be able to search up for that thing. And if you scroll down, you'll be able to see what they're offering. You'll be able to press download at the bottom as well. And by doing that, you'll get a code. And that code you enter in into the Anki. If you download it, it all comes like an Anki file, things like an APKG or something, I don't know. And ultimately what that does is you can import that file and it gets added into your little deck section, which is handy. So if we press create deck and we'll get taken up, let's say we put our example in, you'll notice that up here now in this little section where it says deck, we've got our own deck, but there's obviously no cards in it. There's no new cards, there's no cards to learn, and there's no cards that we're due to revise. So the way we'll do that is that we can either press on it here, and what that'll do is say, oh, you finished the deck because it says there's no cards to review or learn. Brilliant. Obviously, we want to actually add our own cards. We don't want to be told we've done everything we need when we haven't. So if you come up to this little add button up here and press on that, what you'll see is it takes us to this page here. Now, I might have a few extra little bits up here that you might not have because of add-ons, but essentially the key points to notice are there's a front, there's a back. We can see the type of flashcard we're using here, and over here we're seeing the deck we're doing it into. So because we've just made this deck called example, you can see that we're currently entering a basic flashcard which consists of a front and a back into the example deck. So if we then put our question into the front like so, and then we can tab and go and put our answer at the back. If we then press command and return, or control and return, that will then enter that card into the deck, which you saw there in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. So that's happy days. We know that has been added to the deck. If we then close this section, you see it takes us back to the home deck. And this is where we now see that instead of being 0, 0, 0, the example deck has 1 new card, 0 cards to learn, and 0 due. So our card has officially gone in there. And if you did want to check one more time, if you press browse, you see over here on the left, we can check this deck called the example, and we press on that, we now see in this little sorting bit here, we've got the question there, the card type, when it's due, and what deck it's part of. And we now see it over here in all its glory, which is fantastic. Another thing worth just mentioning is that if we want to create a deck within a deck, so maybe it's lecture 1 and we've also got lecture 2, then what you can do is if you just literally click and drag like this and hover over the word example, you'll see that it kind of disappears and this plus sign emerges. And so now if you press on this plus sign, suddenly these two kind of enter within this. And this is really handy when you're trying to segment your notes and your flashcards, rather than having to spend a load of time making all your flashcards and kind of color coordinating them and sorting them to different decks. actually you can do it all online on Anki. Importantly, you have to remember that if you're then going to make a load of questions, then ultimately you're going to have to make sure that every time you start a new deck, every time you press add, you have to just double check, have you got the right flashcard in the top left, and in the top right, have you put the right deck? So actually maybe I'm now going to lecture 2, so I want to make sure I type that in and I can find that, and here it comes, and I'm now going to be entering flashcards into lecture 2, which is perfect. Let's now just make a few cards to demonstrate what we can actually try and do with these flashcards. Worth pointing out that you'll notice there's all these pieces you can put in at the top, so if you want to make anything bold, you can do Control B, or press the bold button up here, or you can press the italics, or the underlined, etc., like Word. You've also got these two buttons here if you're trying to make a formula, or doing maybe any equations or mathematical flashcards you're trying to make. You can customize the color, etc. And further down the line, you can also get add-ons that will allow you to manipulate the flashcards in a way that Anki on its own won't allow you to do. So then, now we've added those flashcards, if we come out of here and press on the red, as you can see, we now have our 5 flashcards in the new section of lecture 2, which means that these are cards that we haven't viewed yet since putting them into Anki. So if we now press on lecture 2, you'll see that we have all this information showing here, and on this what we can do is press study now to get cracking on the flashcards, and you'll come to a screen like this. So again, we've got the same tabs at the top, we don't need to worry about them. Here's our question in the middle. We've got this little section at the bottom here which tells us how many new cards we have remaining, how many cards we have to learn, and how many cards are due. We've got more over here. Don't worry about this for now. This is all quite overwhelming and probably pretty useless for you. Don't bother even looking at that. And over here we've got edit. So if you realise that for whatever reason, maybe you've spelt the question wrong or you've put in the wrong term, you can either press edit or you can actually just press E, and that will take you to a page where you can actually see the flashcard like this, and now you can edit it to your heart's content if you realise that, for example, you wanted to have something in bold or whatever. Just make sure you press Command Return or Control Return, and your edit will be entered into the card result. So the shortcuts today, you can either press Show Answer and kind of press your preference of how easy you found it, or if you want to be a little more efficient, stop fanning around for 20 minutes, you can actually just do a few shortcuts. So as long as you press the space bar, you'll see that I now get the answer showing up. And then these at the bottom, yes, I've added a little color coordinated after I took the mick out of it because I have a very Neanderthal brain. Well, the good thing is this number over here is essentially the number 1. So if you press 1, it will assume that you didn't get the answer at all, and it will show it to you again in less than a minute. If you press this one over here, this is number 2. So I don't even need to press anything with my mouse. I can just have my fingers resting on the numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4 and press down depending on how easy I found it. The numbers here is essentially when you'll be shown the next card again. So it might seem like a lot of a minute, and it might seem bizarre that even if you found it good, you'll still be seeing it less than 10 minutes. The point is that this is a space repetition algorithm essentially. So you're being shown when it next thinks you need to see it, so long as to maximize how long your memory is going to serve for this bit of information. So if now I'll press 3 here, and I did this one well, so I put a 3 there. I got that straight away, so I'll put 4. But because I got it straight away, they clearly think I need to see it again in 3 days. And as a result, because I've now got 2 questions that I need to see again, but 1 question I got right, you'll now notice that at the bottom, I've got 2 cards still to learn. I've got 2 cards which I need to see again. But the one over here, I've got nothing due because the number 3 is essentially gone, because it's just going to wait for 3 days' time when it'll actually come into this section here where it says that I'm due this card. So I'll carry on doing it. I found this one hard, I found this one hard, and that will show me again. I can see again, and you'll notice that look, if I pressed 1 on this one, well, it says actually you need to probably do, even if you found it good, you'll have to do it again. And I'll do that one again. But over here, because I already pressed a 3 and I had a good start with it, then suddenly, if I have it good again, it says, look, we'll let you revisit in a day. Ultimately, you can answer depending on how easy you do actually find it. But I would say that if you've got a load of flashcards, particularly if you're at med school or you're doing vet med or you're doing something that's very fact driven and you've got maybe several thousand flashcards to work through, you're best not pressing number 1 when you have to revisit everything in 1 minute's time. You're actually better, I've found, just kind of spamming 3 to see if you do remember something. Just keep pressing 3 until eventually it will say either 3 gives you 1 day to revisit again, or just press 2 so you have to see it again in 10 minutes. But if you carry on pressing as number 1 down here, then all that is going to happen is you're going to carry on seeing the same card, the same 3 cards over and over again. It's going to take you so long to get through it. Part of using Anki is realizing that you won't remember it all in the first time, and actually you're better off just steadily doing it and keep being consistent with your flashcards. So once you then finish and you've learnt all the flashcards, you'll come back to this screen again, which we saw earlier, but this time because you've actually had cards in the deck, it now reveals that, hey, you're done, you're free. And if ultimately you don't have any cards due and you've finished them, but you'd like to revisit them again later in the day, you can do this custom study feature and you'll be able to kind of revisit all the flashcards without altering when you need to see them next, which is quite handy. Now we'll come to the browse feature and how this becomes useful. As you can see, we obviously only have 1 deck here, but if you imagine having 5 different decks that you've got in your bank, essentially, that could be quite frustrating and quite annoying if you're trying to look for a certain flashcard. Maybe one of your friends on the course asks you a question, or you're trying to look up some information for an essay. Then what you can do is you can go up to this tab at the top, and what we can do is you can search for that key information. So if I'm thinking, oh, I need to know information about this certain bone, or I need to know information about that certain disease, or etc, etc. Well, if you can remember what that thing is, you can put it up in the top, and it will search within this whole deck, and lo and behold, it will reveal the card to you that has the information you need. So if maybe you're looking for certain keywords, and you want to try and talk about as much of it as possible, then if you put the keyword in at the top, then what we'll do is it will find that for you. Equally, if you've got multiple decks, you can work out how specific you want that search to be. So maybe you just want to find all the times it shows up in lecture 2, in which case you'd search up here, and as you can see, it puts the quotation marks around it, so that indicates that it's searching for that term within that lecture. Otherwise, if you get rid of all of this and start searching up keywords here, then it will go through every single note you've got and try and find that keyword you're searching for, which is really handy if you've got several thousand cards. In terms of what not to worry about, I would suggest some of this stuff on the side is pretty irrelevant. The flags are probably more complicated than they're worth, and when you're just starting out on Anki, it's quite overwhelming. Don't bother. Card state, probably don't really need to know much about it. It says all on the front page, so leave that be. Note types, this is essentially all the versions of flashcards that you have. So you can kind of make your custom flashcards if you want that have different settings on them. For most of you, you probably don't need to worry about different flashcard types because ultimately you need something on the front and something on the back, but it can be quite handy if you're trying to learn something like Mandarin, you want to have Hansa, Pinyin and English, or maybe if you're learning diagrams, you want to have a question to say, what is this diagram? Then you have one side that has the diagram and one side that explains the diagram. Then you can make that all over here and you can have a front, a diagram and an explanation. And then you can kind of segment your information, and you can also make it so you're tested only on certain parts of that. But again, that's probably quite niche and probably quite necessary for when you're just starting out and just want to get basic flashcards going out. You'll also have this quite nice feature then when you come out that you can see how long you're taking on flashcards. So here it says you've studied 11 cards. That's because I've revisited some of the numbers a few times. And that's why it's up to 11 cards. So I've seen a card 11 times. And I did it in 3.08 minutes, which means I was doing 16.81 seconds a card. So obviously that's quite slow, and you might realise then that this is quite handy in working out whether you're actually being efficient with your revision or not. Sometimes you might spend 3 hours doing flashcards and think you've been great, and then you come out and realise you've just been taking 40 seconds on each card. And at that point you realise, well, there's no point in spending so much time. Instead, you should just try and do it in less time and you'll be more efficient with it, which I did a video on, which you should check out at some point. Now that's everything you need to know to actually just get started. But I'm going to show a couple of add-ons that I think will be beneficial to you that I would suggest downloading, and I'll put them down below so you can go straight to the Anki website. I think these are actually pretty good and improve the experience on Anki. So we're going to have a brief look at them now so you can quickly download them and maybe pimp up your Anki a little bit more. So like if we're trying to find shared decks online, we can also search up add-ons. So this is where we're able to find certain cards and certain handy things. So there'll be all sorts of stuff on here that will have all sorts of ratings that can be quite handy for you if you're trying to work out what is and isn't good. But one of the things I'm going to recommend first of all is this one here, which is the review heat map, which I'll show in a second, and also image occlusion enhance. If you have a quick look at what this actually does, image occlusion enhance means that if I want to make a flashcard from something on screen, so maybe you've got a PowerPoint and there's a diagram you want to take images from, or there is all the information you need and there's a load of dates and you just want to memorize the dates. And all you have to do is take a screenshot. You go into your add section of Anki. As you can see again, we've got the type of flashcard here. We've got the deck we're going to enter it into, or the sub deck, I guess. And if you've downloaded Image Occlusion Enhanced, you'll find there's just this little button here. So it's Command-Shift-O, or you can come and press this, and it'll open up all your tabs and all your documents that you've got. But ultimately you want to add the screenshot that you've just taken. So here that is for me. This is the screenshot I took just a moment ago. I'm then going to go press open, and before you know it, will take me to this little screen here. So this is the image I just took. This is the screenshot I just took from the laptop. And what you'll do is if you just click and drag, let's say this is the flashcard I want to hide, that will look like that. You cover up the thing you're trying to hide, and suddenly that gets added. So then if you want to have hide all and guess one, so let's say I take multiple flashcards, I'll take that one, and I'm trying to memorize which each of these key titles are or whatever, you can press hide all, guess one. As you see in the bottom left, it says 3 cards added. So now if we close this and come out of our add feature, you'll now see we have 3 new flashcards have come into our Lecture 2 deck. And if we study those, you'll see that it goes red. And if you press spacebar, it reveals it. And hey, I got that really easy, so I'll press the number 4. And hey, I found that one easy as well, and I'll press 4. And I found that easy, and I'll press 4. And so we've cleared those out. But that's a really handy feature if you've got a lot of information or a diagram, or you just want to take a screen grab and cover that up. Then it means you don't have to write out a load of complicated flashcards trying to justify what you're trying to say. You can actually just take it visually, which is really handy, especially if you're somebody who likes to draw your own stuff, and then you don't have to faff trying to get that into a flashcard every single time. And you can have multiple flashcards from the same image. The heat map review then is really handy to see. It's quite motivating, I think. It's something that actually kind of gamifies Anki a little bit more. You get a little map like this, and it will tell you exactly how many cards you did on a certain day. So today I've done 14 cards for Lecture 2. And then it'll also see you have some of these grayed out squares, and that'll tell you when you've got cards due. So some of those cards that I said, yep, no, I've got them, and it says, okay, you'll see them in 4 days. You have to keep track and see how many cards from this deck you have to do in a few days' time. And you'll also have one of these at the bottom of your screen if you want. You can sort out options that will come right at the bottom, just above this text here, and you'll be able to see how many cards you can do tomorrow and the week after. And that can be really handy to kind of give yourself more of an idea of if you've got a load to do and need to book out more time, or if actually you've got a couple days free that are slightly quieter on the flashcard reviews. To actually download the add-ons, what we're going to do is we're going to press onto these. So let's say we want to download Image Occlusion Enhanced. What we'll do is we'll see a demonstration here of kind of what it is. We'll get a description, blah, blah, blah. Ultimately, if you come down here, you'll see downloads, and it says to download this add-on, please copy and paste the following code into. So we take this code, we copy and paste it. To do this, you're going to come up above and out of the app essentially, and up here there should be a little button called Tools, and pressing on Tools there'll be a drop down that says Add-ons. Pressing on this, you'll copy and paste the code in. You say Get Add-ons. You'll copy and paste the code that we just took, press OK, and it will say something like, hey, if you want to download this, press restart to install it, blah, blah, blah. And it'll be done, and it'll come in, and you'll be able to do the feature. Really handy. A few more add-ons that I think are worth mentioning, I'll put on screen now with a brief description of what they do. These may be more niche, or they are only really visual benefits rather than any actual like functional help. But I would suggest looking at these and checking them out online and seeing whether it's something you'd be interested in getting. Otherwise, you can do your own exploring and see if there's maybe flashcards that are more tailored to what you're looking for that will be quite handy for your studying. That's everything you need to know to just get started on Anki. There'll be a few more fancy flicks and tricks you can learn further down the line, but ultimately, don't get bogged down by all the complicated details. Really, you just want to use it to add flashcards, sort them into files, and start reviewing them on an algorithmic basis rather than having to kind of design your own revision plan for yourself. I hope that helped. If you've got any questions, make sure to leave them down below and I'll do my best to answer. If you're a med student, then I'm very sorry. It's the start of a few long years of Anki, but as long as you can understand the basics, you should be just fine.